that you will all do a SWOT analysis of yourself before you start putting pen to paper on this 800-word document that you will have to submit to the university called the Statement of Purpose. So a statement of purpose, when you start writing it, it has usually a very logical structure. It's about 800 words, and it has at least 3 parts: an introduction, body, and a conclusion. The reason why we discuss this structure is because in Western countries, most Western essays or documents have this logical structure, and admissions committees that are reading through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of documents a day, sifting through so many students, they expect that the student will write in this format. Otherwise, it's very difficult for them to find the information that they are looking for. So it's best to follow a format that people expect you to write in. While the content may be unique and exciting and different, you want to stay as close as possible with an introduction, body, conclusion, prose type writing rather than poetry. I know a lot of you may be very poetic and very creative in that way, but prose is what admissions committees want to see. They don't want to do any guessing work. They don't want to assume. They don't want to infer or interpret. They want upfront, in 800 words, almost like an executive summary of who you are, what are your strengths, why graduate school right now, how will you be able to contribute to the program, and finally, why are you applying to this university? Very straightforward, right? So think of it as a executive summary of yourself to the admissions committee, so they can make a quick decision, right? That said, we don't usually have tables or graphs in statement of purpose. It's usually 800 words text document. Going through the various individual parts of an introduction. Now, I'm going to start this discussion on the parts of an essay with the introduction. However, I must caution you that don't get stuck with writing the introduction in the very beginning, right? You can always write and craft your introduction after you know what you're going to put down in the rest of your essay and come back to it. But these are simply ideas that you can follow in preparing the introduction of your essay. So some of the tools that you can use to have an attention getter. Now, as I said, admissions committees are sifting through hundreds, if not thousands, of essay documents through the admission cycle, right? So you want to hook the reader early on. In fact, you want to hook the reader within the first 2 sentences of your essay. If you're not hooking the reader by then, they are going to lose interest in that document very, very quickly and set it aside. So we don't want that to happen. We want you to get the best read possible. So here are some things that you can do to get the attention of your reader early on. Rhetorical generalizations, surprising facts, quotations, and anecdotes. These are some tools we'll discuss in a little bit more detail that you can follow in order to get the attention of the reader. So let's talk about rhetorical generalizations. Often it's a general statement about your subject. Now, remember earlier I told you, be aware of trends in your industry, right? And trends in your industry is a general prediction about the direction your industry is going to take in the future. And this may be established by some of the leaders in your industry, or some of the groups of leaders in your industry will meet and decide, this is where we see this industry going. You can use statements like that. You can use your understanding of general directions about your industry and use that knowledge to emphasize your passion for the field, but also your understanding of how this field is growing, right? So that should interest the reader immediately, because at least they know that you have done your background work and you're not coming here clueless, right? So here's an example of what a rhetorical generalization may be. So because recycling technology isn't cost effective yet, we'd be better relying on traditional garbage disposal while using funds currently allocated for recycling to develop new efficient recycling technology. Now, this may be the statement of purpose for a student who's applying to graduate studies or graduate research areas focused on recycling technology. Environmental studies or environmental engineering. Those may be the candidates who write perhaps a starting statement like this. Now, your introduction will typically have about 100 words. So while this is a very broad and general statement about recycling technology, how does this statement relate to you? Now, that could be the next lead-in to this statement. For example, you could discuss maybe a project that I had done on developing sensors to identify specific types of segregation mechanisms or some such. You can use this generalization as a segue into something very specific that you have done that has impassioned you to now pursue graduate studies and hence apply to this program, right? So you can start with a generalization, relate how this generalization ties into something specific that you have done, which is motivating or inspiring you to apply to graduate studies. And that is a good introduction to who you are now. And your body can then discuss about how you got there and how a graduate program is going to help you in the future. Right? So that is how rhetorical generalization could work for an introductory paragraph of your essay. Another tool you could use is talk about surprising facts. These could be statistics or trivia or obscure information related to your subject that you find interesting, pertinent, or extremely urgent. Creates a sense of sometimes statistics create a sense of urgency. 80% of the people who are suffering with diabetes do not have the right tools to measure their sugar consumption, and therefore we need to develop XYZ products to be able to measure individuals' sugar consumption. That's an example, right? So that could be a biomedical engineering statement. Or in this case, we have an essay that argues for recycling sewage water. So again, to get these facts, to get these statistics, you'll have to do your research. Look into some of the publications that you have access to, trade journals that you have access to that publishes these facts that are relevant to areas of interest, your areas of interest, and use that information to introduce your subject areas of interest. That should then tell us why the urgency in applying for a graduate program at this time. Right? So facts are very important and a very logical way of connecting the world to what it is that you are doing and what it is that you plan to do in the future. And there is no dearth of published facts available online, so you should be able to find this a very interesting tool. Most of the times, if you read newspaper articles, a lot of them will lead the story with facts, with statistics. A lot of marketing journals will lead with facts and statistics, right? So do not hesitate to use and cite reliable sources on statistics, right? So as much as possible, identify a reliable source from which you can use stats on. Quotations is often used. You can quote any leaders in your industry. You can quote other people who inspire you. You can even quote some mentor of yours who has really inspired you to choose your field of study, right? While a quote may be a common observation, you need to lead in the introduction. If you're leading the introduction in with a quote, you need to tell us why that quote is important to you. How does that quote relate to your development and advancement and aspirations and goals as it relates to your graduate program? At the end of the day, everything that you say and do has to relate to you and your reason for applying to graduate school, right? So feel free to use a quote, but don't leave it hanging there impersonally. Personalize and interpret the quote to your context and your desire to pursue graduate studies at this time. Anecdotes are short stories about yourself. These could be some turning points in your life that triggered your passion for the subject or triggered your desire to go to grad school. Whatever they may be, try to make it into a very descriptive and interesting story that transports the audience and at the same time ropes them into the next paragraph, subsequent paragraphs of your essay, right? So use anecdotes. Anecdotes are a great way for you to share perhaps some things that have sparked a light bulb while you have done your own SWOT analysis. Yeah? So in doing your SWOT analysis, you may recount a lot of personal experiences that you've had that have led you to this point in your life. Capture those and see the most interesting ones that are relevant to your graduate school application and use them in your introduction to help the committee better understand who you are.
Thank you so much for listening to us. Do comment your opinions down below. Also, if you find it useful and relevant, do subscribe to our channel as well. For more details, feel free to get in touch with us.